Hello everybody, my name is Eileen Hernandez and I am project manager for the team The Breaks. For our project, we wanted to help the Paws Patrol Adoption Agency in Green Valley, and these are our project initiation and planning slides. In these slides, we will go over our problem definition, our scope of work, and our feasibility analysis. And by breaking up tasks from all of our modules, we have successfully created a Gantt chart and a PERT chart. My group and I have put a lot of work into this, so let's just get started. Adoption agencies play a vital role in making sure animals get new homes, and by going into our problem definition, it becomes a lot of data to handle. As the agency grows and grows, you have to track pet profiles, customer profiles, insurance information, and as the business becomes more successful, all of this data and all of these databases and the way they interact with each other can become very complex. So Paws Patrol Green Valley has tasked us to create a new user-friendly application that simplifies the adoption process and enhances the adoption experience by streamlining how the information in these databases are handled. The current method of handling all this data is very time-consuming and not efficient. We want to help the Adoption Center by improving how they handle all of their data. And in doing so, we can help the Adoption Center successfully track and manage all of their profiles, information, and applications effectively. So to summarize, adoption agencies have to handle large amounts of data, and as it grows, they become a lot more complex. The current method that Paws Patrol Green Valley use to handle their data is not efficient and time-consuming. And we, The Breaks, want to create a new application for Paws Patrol Green Valley that will help manage all of their information a lot more effectively. My name is Eileen Hernandez, and this was our problem definition. Going back to our 280 textbook, we found this formula for to calculate task duration. B is best case, P is probable case, and W is worst case. Using a ratio of B equals 1, W equals 1, and P equals 4 times P, put that expression all over 6, and that is our person day task duration. However, because we realize as students we aren't working the 24 hours and we usually are working on other classes or we sleep, we decided to break it up into 6-hour person days. Looking at our planning, you can tell that the Gantt chart has a significant higher values than all of the others on this list. As we progress through the project, we learned that the Gantt chart kind of builds the PERT chart, which helps build the scope of work. Our module videos also take up a large amount of values, but that is because there's a lot more that goes into making videos and to making a problem definition. We gotta edit, record, put it all together, the whole 9 yards. For requirement definitions, this is actually a lot larger than the other values on this list as well. That's because determining system requirements, we decided that was going to be time that we spent with our clients to create the requirements together, and that was going to take at least a couple days. Next, analyzing existing software. That wasn't too much because we figured that's just research. The numbers that we pull are not completely arbitrary. We tried our best to create fair values. For DFDs or ERDs in our event table, we try to guess how long it took us to create them back in the 280 class. Feasibility overview was a thing in and of itself, so we try to give its components individual equal amount of time. Economic feasibility is most likely just a return on investment that we have to calculate. Organization is going to be our ERDs or DFDs. Technical, I think, is more of our prototyping and pseudocode. And scheduling is what we are creating with our Gantt chart and PERT charts. For our object-oriented models, we tried our best to try to remember from last year how long each of these tasks would take. But along with that, we also researched individual tasks and tried to gauge from there how long personally we think it would take us to complete. Again, these numbers are not completely pulled out of our butts. We actually tried to give a really fair value and try to guess how long we think it would take. For the more egregious values, for example, prototyping that you can see up here, you'll notice that it takes a lot more person hours. But that's because we consider how much is encapsulated into prototyping. We tried to consider our heuristics testings, our user interface designs, as well as our pseudocode. And all of these values together help create our Gantt chart. So what our group and I ended up doing is go through all of our modules on D2L and pull out all of the tasks that we would have to turn in. We use those tasks to figure out, to calculate the time duration. And then after calculation, we plug it into the Gantt chart. And these values in red are what you saw reflected in those charts from the previous slides. We tried breaking up the tasks into phases, so we have our analysis phase and our design phase and our implementation phase. The more egregious values that we calculated for prototyping and log testing, you can see are reflected down here, how they would take up to like a week or more for us to complete, at least compared to making our charts and our diagrams, which we're projecting would only take a couple of days, if not just a few hours. Figure because the project selection was already handled, we omitted the first weeks and just began here at our planning phases. Thanks to the Gantt chart, now we have a great visualization of all the projects that we'll be doing in the future. And because we're planning so far ahead into the future, I think this will help us make better risk assessments and not miss any deadlines. Right, thank you. My name is Eileen Hernandez, and this was our Gantt chart.
Hi everybody, my name is Jasmine Grijalva, and I'm going to be going over our scope of work and our PERT chart. So here is our scope of work. Basically, to go over our introduction, we're going to be creating a cross-platform application for Pause Patrols of Green Valley that will take in applicant information and preferences and then connect them with a matching pet that is available for adoption. A couple of our objectives is that we want to have it to be really easy to use and for the interface to be very simple and straightforward without being too simple. We also want it to be able to grow with the amount of data that is there and with the amount of users. We also want to be able to manage all of our applicant information as well as their application submissions, and then we also want to manage our pets information, so all of their breeds, types, gender, all of those good categories that are important for potential applicants to know. Some of the deliverables are obviously the application, then as well as a cloud database server that will support this application. We're also going to have all of our documentation as well as plans for installation, training, and ongoing support. Our timeline for this project would be planning and initiation, which has already started. The duration of that would be 1 week. Our database schema, that would be starting on the 25th, and that would take us about 7 weeks. And our completed application would be starting on the 6th of November, and that would be done within the span of 3 weeks. So to finish going over our price and payment schedule, I was going over the labor cost, so in total it'd be $10,000, and then our organization and management, that would be a total of $110 per week, which is already started, so that's why I included the 15 weeks instead of 10. And in total that would be about $1,650. And for additional resources, this would be things like licensing, installation, training, stuff like that. I'd say probably be about $250. So here is our PERT chart, and our PERT chart is very similar to our Gantt chart, but this is basically a more detailed timeline, I suppose. We have our dates and our duration, as well as the order in which each has to be done. So whichever, I can get my laser pointer. Okay, so to go over our PERT chart, basically anything that has that comes from one kind of needs to be, this has to be done before the streaming off of tasks are done. So it's kind of how we have it laid out. Our Gantt chart has to be done before our work breakdown structure and PERT chart is finished, and then of course our video can't be done until all of this is done. That's kind of the format of every phase that we have here. We just have to make sure that all of our planning and preparation is done before we can deliver any of our videos, as well as just our general task. Yeah, that's kind of how it's structured, and the way that we've formatted it makes it a lot easier to understand when and how long we should be taking on which tasks.
Hello everyone, my name is Ty Welch. My group's The Breaks, and I'm here to present our feasibility overview. So we have our 4 sections right here. I'll begin with the economic section. In terms of finances, our project's looking great. We anticipate the benefits will far outweigh the cost. I'll show a spreadsheet in the next slide, but this means more funds for shelters, increased pet adoptions, and a potential revenue stream for the platform. Organizational wise, everyone seems to like the project idea. Shelters, potential adopters, vets, anything that's related to pets. Everyone's kind of on board with it. From a technical standpoint, our team's looking great. We have all the knowledge, all the experience to bring this project to life. Schedule wise, we have a clear schedule. Our Gantt chart, our PERT chart, our WBS, that's all laid out. So the timeline looks great. Alright, so here is the little spreadsheet I was talking about a second ago. So let me go over it for you guys. So let me start off with the columns up here. We have our years, our annual cost, our annual benefit, our present value of cost, our present value of benefits, our net present value, our total present value of cost, our total present value of benefits, and our return on investment. So these are our two formulas. We have our net present value is equal to total present value of benefits minus total present value of cost, which is this one minus this one equals this, basically. And I'll get to all the numbers in a little bit. And our return on investment is equal to net present value divided by total cost times 100 to get our percentage, and that's going to be on this side. So it's our net present value divided by our total cost times 100 to get our percentage. Let me start off with year 0. We have our startup cost, which is all the labor, all the documentation, stuff like that. So then we don't get a benefit because it's year 0, no benefit. Net present value is going to be the same as the startup cost. The total is going to be the same, no benefit, and no return on investment. So where we got the 5,000 annual cost is going to be maintenance, make sure everything's running smooth, training, stuff like that. Our annual benefits 20,000 coming from potential revenue streams, more adoptions, the shelter working with more pet related businesses. So a lot of these numbers are identical in this section, and they'll stay like that. Our net present values where values start to change. So year 1 is going to be 3,100, 20,000 minus that. Year 2 is going to be 40,000 minus 21,900, which is where we get this value. Then same thing for these last 3 years. Our total cost is going to be everything added up. So all of these numbers are added up, and this is our final number. Well, year 5 is going to be 36,900. Our total benefit is going to be all the benefits added up. So throughout the years, so 20,000, 40,000, 60,000, 80,000, then 100,000. So the first year we start getting a return on investment is going to be year 3, and I think it's well worth the wait considering how much revenue they're going to bring in, how the return on investment keeps going up, and it's going to keep going up throughout the years. So well worth the investment. And yeah, there's the economic assessment of our project. Alright, so here is our work breakdown structure. We have the shelter name up here, we have the project start date, we have our task number, our task description, our start date, and our end date. So very similar to our Gantt and PERT chart. I know Eileen went over how we broke it up into hours instead of days, but on our work breakdown structure, we just have the start and the end date. It's pretty straightforward going through all the tasks. We have it highlighted in the light blue color, like kind of the phases we're going through. So 1.2 going to be defining the problem, 2.2 defining the requirements, 2.3 our traditional models, 2.4 going to be our object-oriented models. I'll go into a little more depth in the next slide. Alright, to pick up where I left off, we have our object-oriented models. Our design phase starts right here, and we have our creating a prototype. And then finally, our implementation phase. This has a bit more subtasks involved, and bigger time frame within these two, 3.2 and 4.2. I'm sure Eileen went over that. I'm sure Jasmine went over that. But yep, Gantt chart, PERT chart, very similar to all the charts are very similar. So yep, there's our work breakdown structure, and I believe I'm ending it off. So hope everyone has a good day, good night, good afternoon.